How about now? Okay, I'm sorry. So, hi everybody, welcome to my photography live stream where we talk about photography and catch up with the community, see how everybody's doing. I hope everyone's doing well. I'm doing well, thanks. And I like the stream to let you guys drive the conversation. So it's an open Q&A. Anything you want to talk about photography related, just leave in the chat section, and I'll do my best to answer any questions or talk about any subjects you want to talk about. And just a few things that I did this week. I'm still fine tuning my uh, Chrome FX or film simulation for the OM3, and it also applies to the Pen F and EPL7 or EP7, I believe. And any of the cameras that have the creative dial on it, so that you can do straight out of camera uh, sort of film look, I guess is the best way to do it. Because a viewer had asked me to try to mimic a simulation he found on a Fujifilm video. So I was able to reproduce that to some extent. The key difference between like Fujifilm simulations and trying to mimic those, let's say, across other cameras, but in specifically to OM3, is Fujifilm tweaks the hue a little bit. Like they shift like blues a little bit green, and they shift yellows to be a little bit more red, and they shift the blues. I'm sorry, the reds to be a little bit more green. So it's kind of a weird mix, right? And it's very unique and proprietary to Fujifilm, and that's very difficult to do with any other camera system. However, I did come pretty close, or as close as you can get to that, but I tweaked it even further so that it works better in our own system cameras. Because I didn't quite care for the exact look that I recreated. It was shifted a little bit too green. I know a lot of Fujifilm does shift a little bit green in their films, in some of the film simulations I've seen. So that's kind of an unpleasant shift, in my opinion. But I'm just doing a quick export now in the background of some before and after images. I went out yesterday and took some pictures to continually fine tune the film simulation I'm developing. And then once it's all done, I will make a video about it and just give it away for free once it's all done. But I am putting a lot of time and effort into it. So your support and donations are always greatly appreciated, whether it's for my videos or for the live streams that I do every week, between like regular photo chats like today, shopping for deals on Tuesdays, and my photo editing streams on Fridays. So your support is greatly appreciated. The other thing I did this week is I went to a golfing event, and some of you have may seen the picture that David Crooks is here that I posted in the community tab. Maybe I can find that real quick. Um, yeah, this damn it, the mic cut off. I'm sorry. So this is me, right? So I'm here with the OM3, the 12 to 40 Pro, and the Godox Luxmaster. So it's kind of a vintage flash. And this trigger is the X2T, which I borrowed from another photographer there because I left my trigger in the car. I usually use the smaller X3 trigger. But I did learn a few things here because this is the first time I've really done flash outdoors for an event. And I did make some mistakes there that I will not repeat. So I'll talk about that. And also, let's see. I've been tweaking my macro photography and using the 60 millimeter macro lens. That's been a great lens with the adapters. I have a sort of a generic Raynox adapter on the front of that, and that works great. So I'm looking forward to uh, improving on that as well. I have been posting some of these photos on my Instagram, like this one. This is the 60 macro with that uh, macro adapter attached on front. And it gives me like 1.5 to almost 2x magnification natively in camera. So I'm getting some really nice detail. I'm still working on, uh, you know, the workflow for this. These are also shots that I think I showed these last week, so I won't repeat these too much. But uh, that's another thing I've been working on this week, trying different flash settings and trying to expand on what I learned from the workshop that I took a few weeks ago. And you know, it's one thing to kind of understand all the settings in the camera and lighting and all of that. It's another thing to go out and actually practice these things, right? And so we'll start with the event photography that I did using flash. So I started out just shooting in program mode TTL, and that was working fine in terms of exposure, right? No problems using TTL with the uh, camera, but the problem I ran into was my shutter speed was too slow. And I had a lot of shots that there was motion blur. Because you're mixing ambient light with flash, you're not going to be able to freeze motion. When I'm shooting in a studio or indoors, almost all of the light's coming from the flash, so I didn't worry about shutter speed. So this was a sort of a transition for me where I really had to pay attention to shutter speed. So it's a mistake that David Crooks did not make because he shot full manual. So he set his shutter speed to the max sync speed 1/250th. So I did notice his shots were markedly sharper than mine. I did eventually get around to bumping the shutter speed and the ISO, but yeah, for the most part, at least 2/3 of my shots were just not tack sharp, and I attribute that primarily to the slow shutter speed that I used, or that the camera was choosing. And yeah, so I should have just stuck with shooting outdoors the same way I shoot indoors, and that is full manual, right? 1/250 the second, f5.6, and ISO 400 or whatever I need for the ambient light. And then you can leave the flash on TTL, I found works pretty well, but you can also set it manually. But I was moving back and forth a lot, so it was important for me to make sure the flash would adjust for the power needed to get the fill-in effect that I wanted. The other thing I did is I used a polarizer because a lot of times when you're shooting outdoors, people are wearing sunglasses or just regular, eyeglasses, and using a polarizer cuts down on some of that glare that you get from there. So I did notice that my shots were a little bit crisper and had better contrast in a sense, especially where there was any kind of speculars. And I'm really pixel peeping here. If you just looked at images side by side, it'd be difficult to tell. But when you want that little bit of edge in your photos to be just a little better, uh, polarizers, filters in general are the way to do that. Um, I was debating if I was going to use my black mist filter uh, because I really like how the black mist filter softens the highlights, right? Again, it softens the speculars quite a bit, but I didn't really want to stack a black mist filter on top of a polarizer. I'm not sure exactly how that combination would pan out because I'd never done it before. So I decided just stick with the polarizer, and that definitely I think made a difference uh, in the photos overall. Once I got my shutter speed up, so good job, David Crooks, and to everyone else that was there as part of the team helping me with that event. And a lot of people took better pictures than I did. Bottom line, um, my pictures just were not that crisp. Not that they needed to be for the event. I'd share with you the pictures if I could, but unfortunately, it was a private event, so I can't really share anything there. Oh, excuse me. And so, yeah, if you're doing live events, I think I was just a little bit overconfident going in. I said, when I get there, I'll figure it out. That was a mistake. I really should have practiced a little bit uh, with the camera and getting the settings down and thinking about everything that could happen. And yeah, so I made a mistake because when I was doing my portrait or studio shots and I was doing my indoor photography events, I practiced a lot the day or two before to really dial in my settings and get and set my expectations for ISO and aperture and all of that. Uh, and in my brain, I don't know, I just got cocky. I just went to the event thinking I would figure it out on the spot. And yeah, in the end, my pictures were fine, because camera does all the work really. But other people's photos from the event, the other photographers, they were better, and all of them were pretty much in the same boat as me. They really hadn't done professional events like that outdoors, other than maybe some things for friends and family, stuff like that. But this was like, uh, a little more high profile, right? So I was, I was very happy that everyone had a good time and got some great shots. I, on the other hand, was really disappointed with my performance and the shots that I got. But unfortunately, but hey, live and learn, right? Um, let's see. The other thing, uh, I guess, those are the two main things this week: is the macro, the film simulation, and then this event. These were the three main things that I did this week and put a lot of energy into. So, you guys tell me what you've been up to, or if you have any questions or want to talk about anything. I guess another thing, I've been watching a lot of videos on the Fuji X-Half camera. Let me put it this way. If OM Systems released a camera like that, I'm telling you, there would be so much hate for that camera, in my opinion. There would be so much hate for that camera. There's just no way OM Systems or really any other camera manufacturer could get away with releasing an eight or $900,000 camera like that. Now I get the intent of the camera, the who's it for is very obvious. Uh, the whole design and intent, and for those people, maybe okay. If you want those exact, uh, if you want that exact feature set, feel, look to your photography, and you wanted that experience, okay. Who am I to say? Spend your money how you want, right? It's your money. Uh, and I'm not going to judge if you like the camera. Then just get it. It's fine. I've bought cameras that probably cost too much for what they are, and I'm happy with them. And like the Leica Deluxe 8, for all intents and purposes, that's an LX100 Mark II. And really, you're downgrading in some ways by buying the Leica version in terms of feature set. And but I like the camera, you know, and it's gone up in price, for whatever reason. That's ridiculous to me. I would never pay more than retail. I would have liked to have bought it, you know, even cheaper, but they're so scarce that I may never get it. And if I'd waited, I'd be paying more for it and I would never get it. So I was lucky I was able to get it at full price, not at the $2,500 or whatever it's selling for now is crazy. But let me tell you, I think the X-Half is I can't remember. Let's look it up. How much is the freaking X-Half camera? Fujifilm X-Half. I mean, I'm not going to dump on the camera. Okay, 850 bucks, right? Uh, let's see if anybody has this in stock. Adorama B&H pre-order. So it's on pre-order. I'm not pressing and holding. Come on. New item pre-order. Let's see if I can even pre-order it. So apparently I can pre-order it. Yeah. But anyway, uh just like the Leica Deluxe 8, you're paying a lot for what you get. You're paying a super premium. Uh this camera, and let me tell you why I think if OM System released a camera like this, it would be a problem. They would get so much hate as a company for even releasing something like that. Fuji's the only one that can get away with this. It's all plastic body. Okay. Everyone that's reviewed the camera says it feels like a toy, right? No raw capture, JPEG only. And then the flip lever, the I don't think it even has a preview screen, right? You can't even see your pictures after you take them. Uh, it's like they tried so hard to mimic Fujifilm disposable camera, I think to a fault. Let me tell you, yeah, imagine OM System releasing a camera like that, all plastic body. Let's say it looks like the OM3, or maybe a little smaller than OM3, but that same style, SLR style, all plastic, JPEG only, no view screen, optical viewfinder. I mean, and then they try to charge $850 for it on top of that. Uh, yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Um, Leica can get away with charging $1,500 for basically a 6-year-old camera, right? And they did do some nice things, or they did some very Leica things to it, right? But in Fujifilm, they did some very Fujifilm things to it with the film simulations and stuff. But really, honestly, if you want that nostalgic sort of vintage feel, you can buy like a Camp Snap camera for $65. Get the same plastic body, same optical viewfinder, same like no screen on the back, uh, same vintage looking images. They got filters in them, or any number of other El Cheapo cameras to give you that vintage look. So let me give you an example. Um, Digicam. So here on my Flickr page, I have a folder for Digicams. I need to add some to this. I know I've taken more. But this is a camera I paid like 20 or 30. I think I paid $30 for this camera. And the pictures are fine for $30. This is the old E620. That's not really a Digicam. Hold on. Here's an LX5. Okay. Look how nice that is. The LX5 is pretty awesome. These are all Digicams, right? LX5, XZ2. You can buy these cameras for like 200 bucks, give or take. Maybe they're higher now, but I only paid 100 bucks for my XZ2. This is the LX5. LX5 monochrome. LX5 monochrome. These are pretty much straight out of camera. What's this? This is Nikon Coolpix S4300. You know, it's not bad, right? I have a lot more actually. I don't know why they're not in this album. Um, this is definitely in the wrong album. This is not a Digicam, but uh, let me see. Fuji. Hold on. I know it was this camera. Yeah, it was this camera. I don't know why I don't have more in here. HS pixels. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, here we go. Here's a few more. This is at the Dulles Center or whatever. Okay. Anyway, back to business here. $30 for that camera. Uh, and what was interesting is when I went out yesterday, I went into Old Town Alexandria. I saw three people, teenagers, I'm guessing. Everybody looks like a teenager now. I'm getting older, but they were young adults basically, or young people. Let me just group them into just young people, and they were all girls, and they were shooting with a little Digicam. One had like a Sony, small compact Sony. Another one had a Canon, a little bitty Canon Elf or something, and then the other one I couldn't tell what it was, but I did clearly recognize the Canon and the Sony. Uh, and they were struggling. They were struggling. They would take a picture and look at it like and keep trying and keep trying. It was fun to watch them take those pictures. But I guess that's the joy of shooting digicams or these old 10, 20-year-old cameras is uh, that experience of not getting exactly a perfect picture or a good picture to start. You have to work it a little bit, right? And but I was surprised. I was surprised to see people out there with these little digicams. I wasn't looking that hard. I mean, I just ran across those three, but uh, I thought that was interesting. Up until now, I really hadn't seen people out with these little digicams. So there is something to this trend. There's something to it when I see people out there, because you rarely see people out there with a real camera to begin with. In fact, I would argue I didn't see three mirrorless or DSLR cameras the whole time I was there. I was like the only guy with a camera that I can recall. I didn't see anybody else with a camera out there, but I did see three people out there with digicams. And I'm distinguishing, interchangeable lens cameras versus digicams. They're all cameras, right? But yeah, nothing, nothing, nobody shooting with a regular camera. Now, I did get an interesting comment yesterday. because I was taking pictures, and the guy said, "Excuse me, sir, where do you get your film developed?" And I said, "Well, District Camera does develops film, but this is not a film camera. This is an OM System OM3." So when I let me grab it. Ooh, man, almost knocked everything over again. So I was trying to fine tune my film simulation, and I bought this came. I don't know if this came in last stream or not, but this is my 25 millimeter f4 for the Olympus Pen F film camera. Looks great on here, doesn't it? I mean, so anyway, he saw me with this camera, and he just asked me, "Where do I get my film developed?" I said, "No, no, no, this is digital, but yeah, District Camera develops film." Uh, Actually, I think I used the same thumbnail again of the on this stream is with this lens on it, and I got a bargain on this lens, $100. They're selling for 200, but if you pay attention and are good at shopping on eBay, you can find a deal every now and then. And I was able to get a good deal on this one. So that was kind of fun. And I do get comments time to time. People say, "Oh, what a nice camera! What is that? Is that a film camera or just because it's mistaken as for a film camera quite a bit." Okay, and Vermis says, or I'm sorry, Gordon is camping and oh, cool, man. Yeah, I can't wait to see your photos. And Jeff is here. Good to see you. Obody 66. Good morning. Zach is here. And Thomas, good to see you guys. And Wayne, ATR Bear, you guys are awesome. Thanks for coming in and joining me today. See if there's some comments here. Furman says, "I'd buy the X-Half if it was half the price. Thank you. I'm here all night. Try the scallops." I don't think even at half the price, I would buy it. But like I said, Fujifilm can get away with it. But look,
This might answer your question.
Alexa, stop. You can get one of these. Pretty much the same thing. 70 bucks and 25% off or whatever. I don't know what this deal is. $5 off any camera or $10 when you purchase two. So, but I would argue that I paid $30 for basically the same thing, and I got a screen. I have it. Let me just show it to you. I have it right up here, and you can find these on Amazon. Here's a couple. I have another one somewhere. Let's start with these two. Oh no, this is not the generic one. I don't know. I probably put it in a box somewhere. But here's like a Canon, right? Uh I paid like 120 bucks for this brand new, and now they're selling for like, I don't know, last I checked these were like 300 bucks. It's crazy. But the generic one that I paid $30 for looks almost exactly like this, same size, and doesn't take as good of pictures as this, but it's kind of a short pocket camera, right? This one I think I paid like $70 for. This is I love this Olympus. This is an SZ30, I think. Yeah, SZ30, 16 megapixel Digicam, has a 300 millimeter equivalent zoom. Kind of crazy. Has a lot of features built in. Nice large screen. JPEG only. I think this one shoots RAW. I think. I'm not sure. I haven't used it in so long. And then, of course, I have a Nikon Coolpix, basically brand new in box. And then the $30 generic one that I bought. I don't know how Fuji thinks they can release basically the same thing and charge 850 bucks. Nobody else could do that but Fuji. And put the tech of the X-Half inside the Epson RD1. Oh my God, no way. That RD1 is a masterpiece. I would love to get one. Yeah, the camera's deliberately nerfed to a ridiculous degree, and they call it fun. Meanwhile, look at all the shouting about the OM3, small to mid-sized camera with flag. I know. I mean, everybody loves this OM3, right? That buys it, right? People that buy it are probably already kind of, buying it for nostalgic reasons. Because if you just want to buy a capable camera, you could get an OM1 Mark One for almost half the price now. But uh, this is a substantial camera. This does everything. Now, I have no scenario that I can think of that I wouldn't use this camera. I did have to change my workflow a little bit because this is a single card slot. So at the event yesterday, uh, I got all my photos onto the camera. I have to take the memory card out. Can I do with whether it's dual card slot, but I usually have two slots with duplicate photos. For this event, I had all the photos on one memory card. And so I put them onto my computer, but this is where the change in the workflow is. I can't put that memory card back in my camera until I back up my computer. So I have to keep the memory card out separate until I back up my computer and all the photos. Now I have two copies of the photos, one on my computer, one on a backup drive. It used to be I would just, if I had two card slots, the second card always was my backup until I did the computer backup. But now my workflow with this is I cannot uh, put the card back in and use it until my computer is backed up, for jobs. For personal stuff, I don't care. But for my jobs, yeah, I have to be, I took a little bit of a risk, not that I've really had memory card failures uh, often enough to worry about. I mean, it's a very, very mild concern. And the fact that there was like 9 other photographers there backing me up, even if I lost all my photos, they would have some, right? Okay, pharmacies here in the UK still develop film. How does it go in the US? It's sparse. Usually you have to find a camera store, uh, or you can go on a particular day. Like if I go to Walmart on Thursday, they'll develop film, but I don't know if they still do that anymore. This was 5 or 6 years ago, the last time I checked, but 5 or 6 years ago, there was 1 or 2 CVSs that would develop film, like a pharmacy, and on Walmart would do them if you went on Thursday, somebody was there uh, to give your film back if it had been developed. You can drop off your film anytime, but you can only go on Thursdays to pick them up. And if you dropped it off on Wednesday, it's very unlikely if you came on Thursday. Probably what happens is they take all the week's films on Thursday, take it to the lab. So you're going to wait at least 1 week if it was Walmart. But I haven't been to a Walmart in so long. I don't know. I don't know if they still do that even. And oh yeah, I'm thinking about getting that. The little the fake TLR. I don't know why. It's $33 I can get it for, but that would be kind of fun just to have. And then it'll just sit on the shelf like it'll just be a shelf piece like my broken OM1, film cameras. And Tim says, I have the Lumix GX85 on the way from Map Camera. Any thoughts? That is the smaller one, right? The rangefinder style. Let me see. Let me just double check. Yeah. Okay. So that's this guy, right? I used to have this camera. So I got nothing but positive things to say about that camera. But the reason I sold it is because I had a Pen F2 and I wanted to buy I traded it for something. I forget. I probably traded it when I got my all-in-one or something. But I never used it. But the build quality of that is excellent. It's really a very solid all metal design. I mean, it's not just like a metal camera. I mean, they really put that thing together well. The seams were very tight, it's very compact. The image quality, of course, is excellent. I didn't have a problem with the EVF, although I've heard some people have a problem with it. I think that's the one. Uh, I can't remember. I think this had the same when I had the camera, I didn't even notice it because it didn't bother me. But you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Uh, the menu system is awesome. Panasonic, I think, has the best menu system. I put them right there at the top. Uh, Canon and Panasonic are the best in terms of menu systems. The new OM3 menu system is fine. It's pretty good too. I mean, they're really getting really good. Nikon's, I'm not crazy about Nikon. Sony is definitely a problem. And Fuji, for me, is at the bottom. The worst menu system I've ever seen in my life. Uh, they make up for it with a Q button. That helps quite a bit, customizing the Q button and stuff. But yeah, if they didn't have a couple of crutches built into it, like this Q button thing, that camera would be almost unusable. If you want to do anything in the menu system. Uh, Yeah, Nikon, not great. It's okay. It's functional. And then I would say Canon, and then Panasonic. Canon, Panasonic, and the new OM menu. They're all pretty close in terms of usability. Anyway, that's enough about the menu system. Image quality is great for 16 megapixels. I think it's kind of a known quantity. I did notice, however, the autofocus in low light is not quite as good as my Olympus Pen F was. And my Olympus Pen F is not great, especially in low light. In good light, no problems at all. But I love the little GX85 paired with the 12 to 32 kit lens. It's a really, it's like Ricoh GRX size. It really is until well, actually the GRX extends out too, but uh, it's a very small pocketable camera, well made, excellent menu system, ton of features, focus bracketing, stacking, post focus, great video. Uh, there's really nothing, there's no downside to that camera that I can think of. Battery life was fair. Just carry a couple extra spares, you'll be all right. The question is, the price point, right? So I'm saying $400. That's double what I paid for mine. And I got the 12 to 32 lens with it. But the price I'm seeing now is $400. It's crazy. I don't know if we're talking about from a purely pragmatic sense, if 400 bucks makes any sense. Because I think the EM5 Mark II is the better camera at that price point. But it's a different style camera, right? Uh, But for 400 bucks, I would get an EM5 Mark II over a GX85. But they're different, totally different cameras. One's rangefinder style, the other one's DSLR style. But with the EM5 Mark II, the reason I suggest that is because you get additional features, right? Live comp, live bulb, high res shot mode, in camera. Well, I don't remember about the in camera stacking. Let's skip that, but definitely focus bracketing. And then also you get optional grips that you can buy for it uh, that have, you know, yeah, you get the optional grip, which really improves the handling quite a bit. But it's not as small and pocketable as the GX85. But, if you're not worried about just putting it in your pocket like this, I think the M5 Mark II would be my choice over a GX85. But like I said, if you don't like that style, you don't care about the live comp and all that, the GX85 is really an amazing camera, and I really liked it when I had it. I just liked my Pen F better and wanted to get something else, and it wasn't being used, so I traded it. Let's see. An old app called Fimo for phone had some okay film sims and oh, interesting. I rarely use my phone for photography. I use it to document things like business cards and restaurant menus, things like that, so that but uh oh, sorry, yep. So that's what I think about the GX85. And Vermis still loves his. Yep. And Thomas says, I get that. I get the is that a film camera question quite often with my EM10. Yeah, that's kind of I got it a lot with my Pen F too. One man with a Canon even seemed to somewhat upset that Olympus would deliberately imitate a film camera. Why would somebody be upset? Why would anybody care? I don't know. Uh, and I love my rangefinder style GX8. Yep. GX8 was an excellent camera. What's his name? Chris and Jordan, when they were reviewing the Pen F, said the same thing. The GX8 is a better camera than the Pen F, but it's not as sexy as the Pen F, right? But it cost less and had more features. And Kostov says, so tempted to sell my Pen F, but it looks like that's not gonna. Yeah, don't do it, man. That is a keeper. I know people that have sold their Pen F. It breaks my heart. I just can't imagine, But there might be people that say, "Why? How could you sell your GX85?" So I don't know. I just didn't have any emotional attachment to it. It was a excellent camera, but I had other ones I liked better. And yeah, you paid 418. Okay. Yeah, I don't know why that's the going price. Uh, I don't know why some things sell for what they do. Why is the Deluxe 8 selling for 2,500 or 2,400, whatever it is? That camera should be selling for like 1,200 now on the used market. But they're asking like over $2,000. And Walter's here. Hey, good morning, Walter. Good to see you. And Gary says, I recently had the chance to handle the Fuji X-Half at a local photography show. I can understand why people will buy it despite the price. It has far more engaging than a point and shoot. Okay. See, that's the difference, right? I'm doing this sight unseen, giving you my opinion. But my opinion is really only that there's no way anybody else could have sold that camera and got away with it. Just my opinion. Uh, Trust me. Just imagine if anybody else came out with a camera like that and tried to charge 850 bucks. There's no way. Oh, I'm jealous. I'm jealous. I would not mind having a GX9. Yeah. And Matt says, "Hey everybody, Olympus 40 to 150 f4 to 5.6 stopped working. Should I bother getting it repaired or should I just get a new fast prime?" Yeah, get a new one. Uh, you can get them brand new for 130 bucks right now. I think they're still on sale. I think minimum repair charge is almost $300 anyway. So I would just buy another one. You can buy them used for 100 bucks all day long. Buy two. That's what I would do. And the only other option would be to get the uh, Panasonic 35 to 100 used. That's an f2.8. It's still a relatively compact lens. You can get those for 300-400, and I think that's a great alternative. The the OM system 40 to 150 2.8, a little bit pricey. Uh, I get it. You get the range and the optics and everything, but I think it's a little bit more lens than I need. I'm not saying it's not worth the price they're asking. I'm just saying it's more lens than I would need. And I've shot church events uh, for indoor events. I've shot church events, but I used my 75 1.8 at a church and my 75 to 300 because I was way back. Uh, but the 40 to 150 would have worked just as well. I've used the 40 to 150 in theater events. I'm talking about plastic instruction. I wonder if OM fixed the problem with the tripod socket if they do release the OM5 Mark II. No idea. We'll find out next week, right? And I seriously don't have any idea. Hopefully they'll release the OM5 Mark II in a week and a half. Yeah, I hope so. And Wayne says the 40 to 150 f4 Pro. I don't recommend that lens because it's very sharp. You know, it's a pro lens, weather sealed. I wouldn't recommend that lens unless you need weather sealing. Then get that. But I would still steer you towards a used 35 to 100 f2.8 for Panasonic. But the 40 to 150 gives you some advantages in terms of, I believe optically it's going to be better than the Panasonic and equal, if not better than the 40 to 150 2.8 from OM Systems. But I would say for $700, give or take, if you can find it used for 500 maybe, it's an option. But if you're doing indoor events, you need as wide a aperture as possible. So that's why I suggest the 35 to 100 f2.8 because you get another stop there. The kit lens, the 40 to 150 is an f4 to 5.6. So at worst, you're really only a stop lower. And I don't know if that's worth spending the extra three, four, $500 to get the 40 to 150 f4 Pro, unless you need the weather sealing. The 35 to 100, again, you're in the $400 price range, and you're getting a very fast f2.8 lens. And you rarely need the reach between 100 and 150. It's a tiny bit more. It sounds like a lot, but it's only really a tiny bit more. If you need more than 100 millimeters, you should really be using the 75 to 300 to complement the 35 to 100. Or what is there? There's really nothing in the ohm system range, right? Over 100 millimeters. Maybe that's why they're releasing another lens, potentially, right? In the 50 to 200 f2.8 range. Hmm. What is that? Oh, the 100 to 400. Duh, but that's a huge lens. And Sri says, "Hey everyone, any idea of features of the OM5 Mark II?" No, no ideas. I'm out of the loop on this one. And wide indoor, there are Panasonic Leica f1.8 1.7 pros and yeah, yeah, you want a really fast wide what is that? It's a 10 to 25 or something, right? Maybe they have a longer one, but they don't there's any over 100 millimeters, you have to go super telephoto, and the 75 to 300 would be sort of my next choice to supplement. It's a very slow lens, though. You're gonna be at very high ISOs indoors, that's for sure. And Mad Matt says, "I was actually looking at a used 35 to 100 2.8, but are there any issues with the M10 Mark II? I definitely need more aperture than anything else, so I was looking at the 75 to 1.8." Um, okay, so when I was doing the church thing with the 75 to 1.8, I was able to move closer and get like waist up and full body shots at varying distances, right? Or do head shots, right? And it was great. It was great. So if you're able to move around in the church freely, the 75 to 1.8 would be a better choice than the 35 to 100. It's a better lens. But the 35 to 100 2.8, um, no, there's no issues with that with any of the OM system cameras. You're going to lose out on like in-camera focus stacking and maybe a couple other things. But in terms of using it for events, yeah, no problems. I've used that 35 to 100 a few times for events on my Olympus bodies, and for just point and shoot like you do at events, no problems at all. You don't get to use the dual sync because that lens has sync built in. So make sure you use in-body stabilization, but you don't really need the lens synchronization anyway. It's not that long. It's a 35 to 100. It's not like a 300 f4 where that sync state makes a big difference. And I bought the 14 to 150 f4 to 5.6 for 400 used. That's about right. It's an okay lens. When did you buy that? I didn't know you had that lens. It's a really versatile lens, though. I sold mine because it just went bad on me for whatever reason. I'm scared to buy another one. I mean, I really like the lens, the focal range, the versatility it gives me. And when I first got it, I loved it, but I can't. Once it went bad on me, it's not like it stopped autofocusing. There was nothing wrong with it that I could tell, other than the image quality was just horrendous after a while. I was just getting terrible, terrible images out of it. I mean, it's not like it missed focus. It was getting focus, but then I don't know, I just didn't like it after a while. Uh, 12 to 203, I'm not familiar with that. Oh, that lens. Oh my God. Oh, I would not do it. I would get the 12 to 100 f4 over that lens. It's okay. I remember I tried. David let me try it for on one of the events or one of our meetups. It's okay. It's okay. I would probably honestly, I would probably take the 12 to 200 over the 14 to 150 based on the results that I got when I used it, when I borrowed it from David, but it's not as good as the 35 to 100 or any serious lens. These super zoom, super like 12 to 200 things, there's always compromises. Yeah, the 12 to 100. Yeah, that's definitely a great lens. I'm tempted by it all the time, but then I think, how often do I really need, like I did this event this week, 12 to 40 is all I needed. I didn't really need 12 to 100. I didn't need my 40 to 150. I could do everything with that 12 to 40. In most events, I can do everything with a 12 to 40. And then when I do need a little more reach, I'll bring out the 40 to 150 kit lens. But I don't even bring that anymore since I got the 35 to 100, come to think of it. So I use my 12 to 40 and 35 to 100. That's my event setup. But I didn't bring the 35 to 100 because I knew exactly what I was going to be shooting. So there's no reason I would need a telephoto. And Robert's here. Good to see you, Robert. I'm sorry we missed you at the golf event. It'd have been nice that you could have made that, but I know you got a day job, so it's okay. Oh yeah, it's a 10 to 25. So the other one's a 25 to 50 f1.7. Wow, those are honking lenses, right? I mean, and expensive. I mean, if you need them, you need them, right? There's nothing else out there like them, but you're gonna pay for them. That's for sure. And Sister Matura, good to see you. Um, yeah. So let's see. What else have I discovered? No, I'll talk about that another time. But I've been using the in-camera focus limiter more with my 60 macro. And I'll tell you what I did. Just a little tip. So the 60 macro, right? We have this little, uh, dial here, which is a pain in the ass to turn. Okay. So I always leave it on the silver part here. Let me just make sure I'm doing this right. This is why I didn't want to talk about it. I'm not really quite ready, but let me just double check. Yeah. So this one, it's on the silver. That's the maximum range from minimum focus to maximum focus, right? To infinity. So I leave the dial here, and then I just use the in-camera focus limiter, and I set it to 0 and point 0.1 or point 0.1 and 0. So that because when you're doing macro, you're always like this close anyway, right? So why not just use the in-camera focus limiter and save yourself the trouble of it going all the way back in and out to infinity when you can just have it do that. So this is making quite a bit of difference in my workflow when I'm in the field using this lens. Like I said, I haven't quite fine-tuned my macro workflow. I'm still working on it. But once I get it down, I'll make a video and share my workflow for doing macro. And I got to take better pictures too. My macro pictures aren't that great yet. Uh, and happy Sunday, Marco. Good to see you. And the 12 to 100 looks like very good lens. Yep. I have not heard one bad thing about that lens. And Wayne says, I have the 10 to 25. I shot it for 4 hours on my own through with no issues. It is big. The Panasonic lenses are 12 to 1500 used, the 25 to. Okay. Yeah, 10 to 25 those are 1.7 lenses, right? It's crazy. So that's a 20 to 50 equivalent. Still a little bit too wide for events. Really, a 24 to 70, like our 12 to 40 Pro, is perfect. That little bit extra reach on the long end. Now the 25 to 50, that's tight too. That's a very tight range. But if you need it, you need it, right? You can have two camera bodies, one with each lens, and you could do an event with that setup. A 10 to 25 and a 25 to 50 f1.7. That's a nice little setup, actually. It's big, heavy, bulky. Uh, I'd argue, I would argue getting an APS-C camera with an 18 to 50 Sigma 2.8 would be a better way to go rather than carrying those two big honking lenses. I don't know. Or Yeah, it's tough to beat 1.7 though. F1.7, regardless of sensor size, that's tough to beat. Uh, because 1.7 gives you advantages that you won't have at smaller apertures, right? And again, this is regardless of sensor size. I'm trying to think. Because I'm thinking if you get like a little Sony A6400 or something with a Sigma 18 to 50, that would be like on a used market, you could probably do that for $1,000, right? And then you'd have one small camera to do everything that these two big but you wouldn't have the 1.7 or the optical quality, I would argue even. Phew. Yeah, those are very specialized lenses, the 10 to 25 and the 25 to 50, 1.7. It's one of those lenses if you want it, you get it. But I can't think of too many practical applications for my use case. That would because of the size and weight. And morning, Rob, my 12 to 100 Pro stays on my OM3. Ability to save video files and custom dial change everything. Yes. Um, I don't do video much, but that big just having a saving the finally being able to save your video settings to the custom mode dial, that's a game changer. I hate using that word, but I don't know why OM Systems doesn't firmware update all their cameras to do that because we all have a movie mode on our mode dial. Why can't we save different custom settings when in movie mode? I mean, it really needs to be a separate switch like on the OM3, but you could work around that. And those Penny 1.7s are on my list. Can eliminate a handful of primes and have the flexibility to zoom. Oh, another one. Really, Marco, man. I mean, given the size and weight of those things and cost, I just can't think of any use cases for me. 'Cause I wouldn't want to carry those two lenses to an event. I'd rather just have the 35 to 100 f2.8, but then I need the wide end. I would always have to carry two lenses, but I could do two bodies. Again, I'll be at f2.8 instead of 1.7. Phew. I just don't want them bad enough, I guess. Like I said, they're excellent lenses. And Roman said, I had a problem with focus peaking on my own 3 with 7 artisans. Peaking works only with Olympus lenses, which does not make sense. I I don't understand. We're talking about manual focus lenses, right? Let me try. I mean, I'm using my Pen F lens here, film Pen F lens. I don't know why 7 artisans would be any different, but I'm gonna grab. I have one. I just don't know where it is. I never use it. Seriously, Roman, there's no contacts on the 7 Artisans manual focus lenses, so it's not going to be any different than here. What's this? No, that's for the Sony. I have no idea where that lens is. It should be right here. I don't know where it is. Anyway, I have a manual focus 7 Artisans lens. It wouldn't work any different than this because there's no contacts. It just mounts on, right? Like this, contactless. And focus peaking works fine with this. I'm not sure what you're doing wrong. Manual focus 7 Artisans does not show the colors. There's no electrical. No, 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 no. It should be working. You just have to activate it. So, like I said, there's no electrical contacts here, right? At all, as you can see, right? So I'm going to mount this, and I have my lens data here set up, right? PenF, it's probably hard to read, but PenF 25 millimeter f4. And then I go into my button menu, and here you can see I have my function button. Let me set this so you can see it. So I have my function button set to peaking, right? Function 1, set to peaking. All right, so I'm going to push my function button, and now peaking should be on. And let me go to minimum focus. See, look at my gray shirt. Wait, see, look, see the peaking? That's red. So, and then I just click the info button. I think, oh, this everything's backwards. But I can change the color. So let me hit the peaking, hit the info button. I can change the color to yellow, white, black, red. Yes, it works for me. If I had a 7 Artisans lens, I would show you, but I just don't have it. There's just no way. I'm telling you. There's no way a 7 Artisans lens would perform any differently. If I could find it, where would I put it? Is it on a camera? No. It's not on any of my cameras. Come on. I know I'm losing half the audience now, right? But it's got to be on this shelf here. What's this? Is this it? What is that? Oh, no. It's a 7 Artisans, but it's for Sony. I put it way out because I never use it. I'm gonna find it. What is? Oh, here we go. Ah, all right. I found one. This is not the one I was looking for, but this is another one. This is a 7 Artisans lens, right? Clearly, 7 Artisans, 4 ohm systems, micro four thirds, no contacts. If for some reason this does not work, I would be shocked. Yeah, it's working. It's really hard to tell on a fisheye lens like this because everything's in focus. Whoops. So, see? And then if I click the info button, I can change the colors. Anyway, ah, okay. Anyway, if you never use it, then sell. Oh, you know the reason I don't sell that lens? It's the 35 millimeter 0.95. I wouldn't get much for it to begin with, right? I might get like 30, 40 bucks for it on trade. Which is fine. I've traded lens for next to nothing before. The reason I don't sell it because the lens does not work on most of the Olympus cameras. For some reason, it works on my OM3 right now. But when I mount it to just about any other camera, the screen goes blank because the contacts are touching the metal part on the rim. And if I sold it to somebody, then it's not going to work. So I wouldn't sell it because it's basically a defect. I would call it a design defect. So that's why I don't sell it. But yeah, there's got to be a reason it's not working on your. It just doesn't make sense to me why it would not work. Your seven artisans lens because there's no contacts. Uh, Irvity, good God, how many cameras do you need? I shouldn't talk. I have 3 full frame cameras, 2 Micro Four Third cameras, and a host of film bodies. I need to move on from some of them. Why do you keep yours? Because I would just get next to nothing for most of them. And yeah, I have a hoarding problem when it comes to gear. I'm a collector now, but I don't have that many cameras compared to some of the some of the some of the videos I've seen of people with their cameras. I mean, I would say even Emily from Micro Four Nerds, I I wouldn't be surprised if she has more cameras than I do. I mean, when you see her shelf, it's pretty much stacked up, right? And let's see. Peter's good about rotating stuff. Maddie's good about getting rid of stuff. Uh, but I think me and Emily, we're probably pretty close. We'll have to do a little competition or do a little survey, I should say, and count all our bodies and cameras and see who has the most between me and Emily. Hit the like button. I appreciate that. And I only have 300, about 300 cameras. Started collecting in the 70s. Oh, God. You know, I remember a guy approached me while I was on a photo walk saying his grandfather passed away and he had boxes of cameras, boxes of them. He took them to the camera store. They cherry picked a few of them, but didn't want anything else because the majority of them were film cameras. And at the time, I should have got him, but I never called the guy back. I said, What am I going to do with boxes of cameras, you know?" Ugh. But yeah, so I'm not surprised if you have 300 cameras because I've seen it. Emily definitely has more than you. Okay, it's on. We'll see. Any thoughts about selling on MPB? I've never done it, but I haven't heard anything bad. Uh, the few people that have talked about selling on MPB, uh, and this is from like when I read. Is it buffering? Is it just you? I shouldn't be frozen. I'm here. Everything's good. Maybe try refreshing the screen. I don't see any issues with my stream here. Definitely buffering. Huh. And you guys are from all over the place. Selling you gets selling you get much less than you get on eBay, but buying at MPB is good. Yeah. Problem I have with selling on eBay is the last time I sold a couple of things on eBay, they were taking like 13%. It was like 10% seller fee and then another 3, 4% for credit card. And I was like, holy crap. And then I have to drive to the freaking post office, and drop it off. And then I'm sweating bullets if it's going to get delivered or stolen or lost. I just, I've sold stuff on eBay time to time, but it's always nerve wracking for me. And in the end, I only make a little more. Like I had a lens on there. I had it on there for 6 months and it finally sold. And I was asking like half what it retailed for. It was like a Fujifilm lens, but it took forever to sell. And then they ended up taking, I was selling it, I think I was selling it for 200 and like some 25 to $30 came out in eBay fees. And then I had to pack it and ship it. So I ended up with like say net 160, $170 if you count my time to drive out to the post office. And the camera store offered me $100 for it for trade. And I'm like, I could have got rid of this 6 months ago for $100 rather than waiting, you know. I get the math. I mean, in terms of math, it still would have been better to wait 6 months, right? But you run a little risk where what if it gets lost, right? Because I'm not going to pay insurance on a $200 lens. Um, it's just it's nerve wracking. Yeah, everyone buying on eBay wants a great deal. Yeah, yeah, I'm one of them. I gotten some great deals on eBay. Selling is always a risk. I go to MPB if it's more than $500. Yeah, that makes sense. Good to keep and dust one off when the urge arises. Yep. And EJ says, I sold some gear on MPB. Good experience, fair prices, fast payment. I trade a lot of Panasonic gear for the OM1 Mark II. Love the camera so far. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that experience because I've never done it myself. I've been tempted a couple of times because they do offer a pretty good price for trade, better than the local camera store. But okay. I'm just looking, see if I missed anything. Looks good. Rowan says, I put my new Pen F, which only has 1,000 shots on it, and they would give me 680, but would sell for 950. Now I keep the black Pen F. It's actually new with 100 shots on it. Oh, okay. The Pen F is selling for quite a bit right now. Let me just look in the US here. MPB. MPB has the best prices too. I typically find them a little cheaper than KEH. Okay. So a little more than 950, but yeah, that sounds about right. What's included? No box. This has the original packaging. That looks really good. Such a beautiful camera. I mean, I know some people hate it, but I really like. Ooh, this one's got. They call this excellent. Look at these scuffs. Mine is primo. I got two. One is beat up like this, worse, but the other one is mint. Has definitely less than 1,000 shots. Definitely less. I have it all the way in the back of my dry cabinet inside of a plastic bubble pack or something. But it's mint, and I'm saving that for myself in case my actual one ever breaks. Although I'm so happy with this OM3. I might be ready to sell my Pen F. I have two. I might be ready to sell one of them. Because I just this hits all the buttons for me, just like the Pen F did. I don't know. Tough call. I don't need two Pen Fs. And if it dies, I got my OM3, and that's much newer camera. It's like 8 years newer. Certainly more capable and all of that, but in terms of nostalgia and classic, vintage design, it hits all the buttons for me. Mine had the original packaging, so I keep both Pen Fs, one silver, one black. Nice. I only have the original packing for one of them. The other one it was a refurb deal, but it had like 600 clicks on it or something. It was like brand new. Rarely do I see cameras with more than 20,000 clicks when they often go way above 100,000. Yes. So you mean the shutter life is 100,000 or more. Um, when I'm looking at DSLRs, not the mirrorless, but the DSLRs, a lot of those do have 100,000, 200,000 clicks on them. Uh, but that's not as common as a camera that has less than 20,000. There's certainly a lot more of those. But the shutter count, long as the shutter count is, under 20,000, I would argue, anything under 100,000 clicks, camera's probably okay, the shutter life. But, it depends on how the camera's treated, right? If it was kind of abused, it doesn't matter how many clicks it has, it's not gonna last. So you always have to look at the kind of the condition and see if it looks like it's been abused or if it's been well taken care of, that kind of thing. Uh, 'Cause I remember I was looking at a camera, I was looking when I look at different cameras, I see some with higher shutter counts, but they were used in a studio, so it had no marks on it at all, even where the tripod mount goes. It was clean, but it had like 80,000 clicks on it, but it was always used in a studio. I would prefer that over a camera that says, say, 20,000 clicks, but have scuffs and scratches everywhere. You know what I mean? Just because I know that one's been kind of abused. But that's just me personally. I don't know in practice what would be better. And Sis Mature says, my wife has a silver pen F and will not sell it on. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I will definitely keep at least one forever. Finally found a deal on an E500, mint condition, two lenses, batteries, wow, and a memory card for $95. Wanted the CCD sensor to play with. It's a little bit different, definitely. The colors are different. So let me give you comparisons. I think it's in this folder. Yeah. So yeah, uh, this is straight out of camera in daylight, and you can see. Um, Let me just put a link to this for anybody who wants to look at it. But here's another example. This is in the shade instead of the sun, and this is a most interesting one because here I matched the white balance in post processing. So I took the eyedropper and I put it somewhere up in here. Oh, sorry. This one is the most interesting because I matched the white balance in post processing. So I put the eyedropper right in here somewhere on both of them. And even even then you can still see there's a difference in the color science between these two cameras. So the E500's on top, it's just a little bit richer, right? The colors feel a little more saturated. And this is the M1 Mark III on the bottom. Different lenses, of course. I can't remember what I was using for lenses. I think this was the 50 millimeter f2 macro lens, and this might have been the 12 to 40 Pro. I can't remember. But this is in shade, and then this is in sunlight. And this is using the auto white balance in camera. So I think those are the only comparisons I did. Photolab 4. Wow, this was way back when I was using Photolab 4. It's come a long way. I think it'd be interesting to compare it if I can find that image. But yeah, this is an interesting folder. Let me just give you a link to this folder. Um, if anybody's interested in this kind of stuff. I mean, I use my Instagram and my Flickr primarily for educational purposes, so I always list the EXIF data uh, when I can, and even on my Instagrams, and then my Flickr. I have various albums for different lenses, cameras, comparisons, things like that. Yeah, you'll have to pry my pen from my dead ends. Yeah. And Robert said, now that I have an OM3, I'd rather part with my OM1 than my Pen F. Really? That's true, though. But the OM1, honestly, for wildlife, it is a little more comfortable to use. Um, and I just picked up a Panasonic S9. It doesn't even have a mechanical shutter. I suppose they'll last forever. The build isn't perfect, though. Yeah, I shoot silent shutter 99% of the time. The problem is I shoot mechanical shutter 99% of the time when I use flash. That may shift a little now that I'm doing more macro stuff because you can use up to 1/100th of a second sync speed with the OM3. OM1, OM1 Mark II, OM3 have 1/100th of a second sync speed. But so that was one, right? No mechanical shutter and no hot shoe. So, like I said, for 99% of my images, but see, the thing is, my OM1 and my OM3 have a stack sensor, so I don't have to worry about rolling shutter. With my Sony, the rolling shutter is horrendous. And I'm talking about for photos. If the subject's moving at all, man, it just gets stretched out and wonky. Oh god, that Sony camera. I gotta get rid of that one day. My A7R5. I'm just not. Oh my god, look at this frickin' paperweight. Yeah, not a fan of this camera. I mean, I can shoot mechanical shutter, right? And not worry about the rolling shutter. But I hate putting unnecessary wear when I can shoot silent shutter in all my other cameras. Shooting silent shutter with this, you run the risk of a rolling shutter image on a regular basis. Forget about sports action wildlife unless you're a mechanical shutter. And then even then it's like I know Photolab works with it now. It got updated about a month ago. So if you're talking about Photolab and DxO, you should be good. And PureRAW, I believe. Awesome, thanks. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so yeah, compare and see what your results are. But yeah, it's definitely a little different look. I mean, if it comes down to the fact that it's a CCD sensor, I'd be surprised. I think just the color science, because I read somewhere that that particular sensor, they did try really hard to match the Kodak film. Uh, they tried to match actual film. I think it was Kodak. They were trying to match Kodak film with the color science in that camera. But I'm close. So let me share a couple images. Let me bring up my film simulation for the OM3. It should work in the PenF the same, but I haven't tried them yet. So I know the settings would be identical PenF OM3, but they're different sensors, right? So I don't know if they're really going to be the same, but I will have it here in a second. Okay, so these are the images. Yeah, give it a second here. So let's take this one. This is a film simulation, and then the raw is here, right? Workspace raw. It's very subtle on this image. It's very hard to see the difference. You can see this is a little richer here. Okay, so that's not a great example. You can see in the sky is different too. It's a little more pale on the blues. The blues here are a little richer, but then the yellows are a little bit richer over here. So not a great image to compare. Let's try this one with this one. So again, this is basically the raw image with no settings, right? Just auto white balance, natural color profile, et cetera, et cetera. This is the film simulation one. And again, you can see the reds here are a little bit different. It's hard to see probably in the stream. The yellows here are a little richer. The red is a little brighter. And then we go over here. Not a happy looking dude. Very subtle. Man, these are terrible images. I was not having a good day photographically. Uh, let's try this tunnel. Where'd the tunnel go? Here. This one's a little more obvious. You can see this is much warmer versus the straight out of camera. Uh, how about like this? Let's see. This is number 597 versus 597. Oops. Yeah, this is a little more obvious. You can see this a little bit warmer looking than this one. And this really has a really nice filmic kind of, I would say it feels very like color film like, in my opinion. It's very, very close. But once I've got it finally tweaked, I'm almost there. Once I get it, let's see if there's, let me try one other pair of images. Let's try, let's try this one. Yeah, it's not quite, they're definitely different. But I think I got it almost down. I almost got it. The film, this kind of filmic look with the film grain, kind of, and because there's no grain setting in color mode, right? Only in black and white. So I'm trying to find the right ISO to give you that perfect grain look, but it's not just setting the ISO, it's also setting the sharpening, the contrast, highlight shadows. All of these things have an effect on how the noise pattern looks. So I'm trying to tweak that as well. I think I almost got it. I almost got it. I'd say I'm about 90% there. We're almost there. Trade your A7R5 for the Nikon Z8. No, I'm gonna wait. Maybe the OM5 Mark II. I don't know. Or maybe a smaller Sony camera like an A6500 or something. I don't know. Because I have a I really like the lenses that I have for my Sony. I only have a couple, but I like them. You're seeing, I rarely shoot flash outdoors. I just moved into continuous lighting, but indoors, yeah. So that's the thing, right? Using continuous lighting is so much better for a lot of things when you're in a studio. You know, what you see is what you get, being one of the biggest advantages. Uh, but yeah, um, I really like using continuous lighting myself when I'm in a studio. The only thing I'm a little weary of sometimes is the light's so bright that sometimes the model, you know, meaning me, has a hard time keeping the light on. It's very distracting. But for like product photography and other types of photography, continuous lighting is awesome. And you don't need anything but a regular, you don't need mechanical shutter for that. If I want to upgrade from my EM10 Mark II to a camera with dual SD card slot, should I go for an EM5 III or OM5? Well, the EM5 III and OM5 don't have dual card slots. So you'd have to go to an OM1 Mark II, or I'm sorry, you could do OM1 Mark I or EM5 Mark III. If you can swing it, go for the OM1 Mark I. You can find them used for like $1,000. Uh, But yeah, dual card slot with an optional grip, it's going to be the OM1 Mark One, definitely. There's no other cameras on the OM system side that has dual card slots. You have to be in the EM1, OM1. And let's see. Uh, and then Wayne, if you go with dual card slot, you have the option to write RAW to slot to one and JPEG slot to the other, giving you a backup in the event of SD. I mean, a lot of people do that, but I'm like, why don't you just shoot RAW to both instead of RAW to one and JPEG to the other? I don't understand the workflow to do it that way. In fact, I shoot, yeah, I shoot typically for my jobs, I shoot RAW on both. So I've recently joined the MFT community from Canon, having sold a lot of gear and now having two OM1 Mark IIs, but listening to you folks, I'm beginning to feel equipment impoverished. Yeah, don't worry. And we have a lot of collectors here, Stuart, so we just have a lot of cameras, but there's the smart thing to do is I think just have one camera system and a few lenses, right? So you have one or two camera bodies and a few lenses. That's what Walter does. Walter has well, he has two cameras, one camera and a backup, and then two lenses. I don't know if he even has a third lens. 24 to 70 and a 70 to 200. That's it. You know, he's pretty minimalist in that sense. I think he has more flashes than he has cameras. And this isn't the group if you're frequently afflicted with gas. That's true. I am a gasaholic, man. Ah, in fact, I just gave into it. I just stream every Tuesday about buying stuff, trying to find a good deal on stuff. That's my I'm gassing for a freaking SACD player right now. Ugh, but I can get one for 50 bucks or I can get, with shipping and everything. And there's another one for $100. That's a lot better. And Walter says, I love my Z8. Trade the Sony for a Z8. Uh, yeah, the Z8 is nice, but I can't do it. Maybe. Maybe. It's just so much more camera than I really need when I'm really happy with my. But the Z8 would definitely solve the rolling shutter problem. It is so bad on that A7R5. Because the Z8 has a nice stack sensor. I probably, if I went Nikon, I wouldn't mind getting a ZF, maybe. Maybe a Nikon ZF. Or an old Z5, the original Mark One. Something smaller. I'm just tired of big cameras. I mean, I will make one exception to that, and that is maybe like the Panasonic S1R, the Mark One, maybe the Mark Two, but I would make an exception for an A7R, or I'm sorry, the Panasonic S1R Mark One. I mean, that's just that camera weighs a kilo all by itself, right? Couple of pounds. It's a beefy camera, but it has a lot of attributes that I like about it. The image quality is really good, and the lenses I can get for it are outstanding at a reasonable price. That system, the Elmont system, has so much going for it. It just, I'm going to get an S1R soon. Let me rephrase that. I'm going to get an S1R eventually. I don't know if it'd be soon, but I'm so happy with my OM3 it has really tempered a lot of my gas for other camera systems. 'Cause I mean, before the OM3, I was gassing for the S1R really bad. I've had it in my shopping cart so many times. I was gassing for a Z8, a ZF, um, even the Hasselblad 907, the Fuji GFX, 100S. I was gassing for all these cameras and trying to figure out a way to wing one into my shelf. But I bought the OM3, and I don't know. I just don't gas for other cameras now so much because it does everything I want. And because it looks the way it does, I just don't see myself picking up any of these other cameras anymore. And Eric says, I'm noob in film. Looking at my photos, why are some ultra grain and others fine grain and some stock on the same stock Fuji 400? Is it how long the shutter stays open? I have no idea. Uh, I'm not crazy about Fuji 400 film though, personally, for the color. It has a little bit of a greenish tint to my eye, maybe, at least to me. Uh, I got a lot of Fuji color film, but I'd rather shoot Kodak, gold or something. But yeah, the Fuji film, not a fan. But as far as grain, I don't know. Yeah, you haven't mentioned your lenses yet. Yeah, I know, right? Ugh. And Walter says the Z 24 to 70 and 7200. I also got the Z 105 macro, but it gets much less use. Yeah, so yeah, Walter's two cameras, three lenses. That's it. Yeah. And Sipnosaurus says I recently switched to using slot one for RAW and slot two to JPEG after a failed SD card on my Costa Rica. Yeah, I don't get that. Why not shoot RAW to both? Why are you shooting JPEG on one? I just don't understand that part. In the old days, one could find a box of camera gear for $5. Yeah, I know. I know. I remember on eBay, you could buy a box of Digicams for like $50. And I was like, do I want to get these? I remember shopping for them. I'm like, nah, these are worthless. Now look. Now they're worth, 50 to $300 a pop. And Wayne says the question in this group isn't how many cameras you have, but how many dry boxes do you have? I could definitely use a couple of more dry boxes. I live in the UK, a dry box may become necessary, yes. And David says, I have a dry box, but that one is the one reason I need to sell some lenses I do not use. Yes. Yeah, Fuji 400 was never a fave. I liked Portra. I like Portra, but I shoot mainly black and white when I shoot film because I can develop myself pretty cheap. Uh, I've thought about attempting color. It's only a couple of more steps, right? You just have to be a little careful with temperature. Whereas with black and white, it's a little more straightforward, right? I have the one step process thing, develop and fix in one step. I forget what it's called. But with color, I got like three different bottles. They all have to be at the right temperature. It doesn't look hard. I just haven't done it. Doesn't all Fujifilm lean cool versus Kodak leans warm? That's why people prefer Kodak for portraits and Fuji for landscapes. Maybe. I don't think they all do. I think Fuji, uh, there's a couple of Fujis, I don't know if they still make them, but there's a couple of Fuji stocks that were a little bit warmer. But I don't know enough about film stock to to talk about it. I just know I like Kodak T-Max because it's virtually the same as Tri-X, but cheaper in terms of how they look. I found the T-Max It gives me really nice contrast, punchy images, just like Tri-X does. It's not the same. They do look a little different, but it's like 20-30% cheaper than Tri-X. At least that was the case the last time I bought it. Let's see. Kodak T-Max. So a roll of T-Max is $7. T-Max 400 is $10. All right. And then Tri-X. I'm talking about 35 millimeter. It's the same price now. $7 to $10. Well, heck, I might just go back to Tri-X. But when I was in the camera store last time I bought black and white film, the T-Max was cheaper. I don't get it. You still have the Hassie. Have you used it much with black and white film? I bet it makes. Yeah, I haven't used it much, but I bought I bought this Fujifilm adapter for it. So this is pretty cool. So you can put Fujifilm Square Instax film in here, and I don't think I have a roll in there now. Yeah, I don't think so. But I can kick out Fujifilm Instax. Well, it comes out the side here, but it's kind of cool. Uh, so that's my most recent thing. It's been a few months since I've done this. I've taken this out because I got the OM3, so now I'm like all in on that, right? But yeah, it's the difference between the quality of images from this Hasselblad and say any of my 35 millimeter film cameras is huge. The film quality, right? I mean, in practice, oh, excuse me. In practice, per square millimeter, the grain is the same. But in terms of field of view, the grain is much finer on the large format. So ultimately, you get a much cleaner image. In fact, I have those on my comparison page as well. Not my comparison, but my film album. So I will show you here. Here's some Instax film. This is one of the shots I did using the Instax adapter on my Hasselblad. It's pretty cool. Um, so this is yeah, this is 35 millimeter. And let's see, 35 millimeter, 35 millimeter. They got rid of this painting. I think they actually put a door in here. Um, anyway, because I was in Alexandria yesterday. Let me see, where's oh here's this is this is the Hasselblad. So yeah, when you punch in, the grain pattern is identical, right? It has to be. It's the same film. But based on the field of view, you get a much finer grain. Let's see, this was also on the Hasselblad. This is T-Max 400. I wrote all this stuff in here, but it's just beautiful. I love the contrast this T-Max giving me. This is also T-Max and T-Max. But if I jump over, say back to some old 35 millimeter like this. This is my Minolta. The grain pattern is, it's a lot grainier, right? But that's only because it's not because it's 35 millimeter, it's because the field of view is different. Meaning I'm putting the same field of view on a smaller area of the film, so I'm cropping. Anyway, let's not get into cropping, but that's let's not get into that conversation about sensor size. The film is the same, has the same grain, whether it's 35 millimeter or medium 120 film. It's the same. It's just you're just cropping in with 35 versus, and real sensors and digital sensor are not much different in a lot of ways. I really enjoyed the Pentax K3 mono images. Yeah, I love that Pentax. Um, I'll talk about that in a minute. Give me the most focus. Yeah. Well, Anthony, if I was shooting polar bears, I would want, as much focal length as I can get too. And let's see, route trick. I use a 128 gig SD card and one slot for RAW, 64 gig slot for JPEG. In the event of a SD card, I now have a backup. The JPEG files roughly the size of the RAW. No, I understand. A lot of people have this workflow. I just don't understand why you don't shoot RAW to both cards. So I bought two 256 gig cards, V60. Cost me like 90 bucks for both, right? I'm rounding up. Uh, and I can shoot RAW to both. So I just don't understand the part about why would you shoot JPEG to one? This card slot allocation is a reasonably priced way of going on an overseas trip and at least ensuring I have all the photos. I mean, the cost difference is so minimal though. I mean, you can get two 256 gig regular SD cards for like 15 or $20. You can get the V60s for about $40 each. And if you really have to, you can get V90s. There's no need to do that in an OM system camera, but uh, well, I just don't see the benefit of not shooting RAW to both. And I thought I saw went out now photography. I only have the 150 to 600, 12 to 100. Now I got totally weather sealed system to go in the country, which gives me the most focal length that I need. Yep, that's a great combo. I mean, you think about it, you just need a pretty sizable bag for your lens if you're going to swap lenses. But or if you have a good strap system, that works too, right? Then you can swap lenses pretty easily. This card slot allocation is reasonably priced way of going on an overseas and at least sure. Yeah, I I, I know. And anyway, speaking of SD cards on an OM3, will the computation time after taking a high-res shot be faster or the V90? No, the computational is done in camera, like in the processing, and then it writes to the card after it's done. So just get a V60 card. You will not see any difference in performance on an OM system camera. And it's very, very mild difference on like my A7R5. It's very minimal. I did a whole video my last video was on a CF Express A card, but I put comparisons between the CF Express, V90, V60, and V30, right? SD cards. And there's not that much difference between V60 and V90. And except in price, a V90 costs 3 times as much, if not more, than a V60, and it's almost never necessary. But yeah, the Pentax K3, that's one of the reasons I'm not really shooting black and white film quite as much, because the Pentax K3 is an amazing black and white camera, the K3 monochrome. I would say after the OM3, that is the happiest purchase I've ever made, is in terms of my cameras. I've never been happier with a camera than my OM3 and my Pentax monochrome. The Pen F, I really liked it when I got it, and it grew on me even more over time. So I would say but I would have to say that's third place. The OM3 is taken over, and the Pentax monochrome. Those are two really amazing cameras. My least favorite is my Sony. The Fuji's okay. I like my Fuji. Just the menus are just a train wreck, but I do like the images that I get out of my Fuji, even though they're kind of pastel-y. Uh, but I post-process, so it doesn't matter. Even with post-processing, I have a hard time tweaking the colors right. But yeah, at the bottom of my list of cameras is definitely Sony A7 or 5. At the top is the OM3. And then the K3 monochrome and the Pen F are kind of like really close together. All the stuff in the middle, I'm not really positive or negative on. Like my OM1 Mark One, I'm very happy with. It's a great camera. I use it for all my work. Like probably should have used that at the event, but at an event you really would need. I thought that vintage style would be more fun at the event. But I use it for all of my paid work. The OM1 Mark One. That's my work camera. And I did use it for all of my birding up until I got the OM3. Now I just use the OM3. Uh, the Canon I don't use much, but it's a stellar camera. It's a stellar camera. I got no complaints about that camera. Um, I even like the Sony for different reasons, but not none of them make me want to keep the camera. If somebody offered me like 3,000 right now for it, it's gone. I don't know. I don't know if anybody would offer me 3,000 for my A7R5 right now. 6 months ago, I probably could have got 3,000 for it. I should have done it then. I have to look into that. Okay, yeah. Let me see if I have my SD card data. I don't know if I saved it or not. It's under my projects. Per gear. I archived it already. Man, that was fast. Well, here's the V90 card, but these are synthetic tests. These don't really mean anything. Because in real world, this V30 card is very, very slow in camera. But the difference between this V90 and this V60 in camera, even when I'm using it on the computer, so little difference. There's zero difference in camera, but in on my computer, the V90 does read and write a tiny bit faster. I can feel the difference, but it's barely perceivable. Um, What is this test here? This is, yeah, that doesn't count. I'll just tell you, in practice, in camera, V60, V90 is no different. So it's so minor. Actually, maybe it's here on my notes. Yeah, it's on my notes here. So this is on the Sony A7R5. The difference is going to be even less on the OM3 or OM1. Whereas the PNY versus the Pro Gear. Okay, so the buffer filled with the V90 card, the buffer filled in 14 seconds. With the V60 card, it filled in 13 seconds. So it's only a 1 second difference. So the V90 card was 1 second, gave you one more second of photo. Okay, so the V90 captured 60 images, the V60 captured 55 images in that 13 or 14 seconds. And then to clear the buffer, it took 18 seconds to clear the buffer with the V90 and 23 seconds to clear the buffer with the V60. And again, this is 60 megapixel RAW plus JPEGs on a Sony A7R5. On our OM3s, OM1s, yeah, there's no difference at all. Not that I could measure. I could not measure any different cameras, Olympus cameras that support UHS-2. Always buy V60. Don't waste money on V90, and it's worth the upgrade from a V30. V30 cards, they take forever. They take forever to clear the buffer. Did I even put that in here? The V30, yeah, the V30 took 53 seconds to clear versus the V60 took 23 seconds. So it took more than double the time with a V30 card. And I have to pay twice the money to buy 128 gig V60 reasonably high speed, right? SD cards, the 64 gig cards, and you, right. Yeah, that makes sense. That is the same here. Uh, but yeah, I don't have a feel for UK pricing. It might be very different there. But here I can get a 256 gig V60 card for 40 bucks. The last few that I paid like $36 for. I don't know what I don't have a feel for what the UK pricing would be. So if you're doing it for cost savings, it makes sense, right? Because it is more economical to buy smaller cards and then put JPEGs to them. But uh, I'm not sure if my slower write 64 gig SD cards control the overall camera write speed, but the JPEG file is smaller, so it writes faster, no problem with my system. I have done that testing as well. I can't remember though, but it does make a little bit of difference. Um, Man, I know I've done that test where I mixed cards. I mixed RAW plus JPEG, RAW to one, JPEG to another. So I've done all of this testing before. And ultimately, since I could get two V60 cards, I don't think about it anymore because now I know I've maxed out my speed, right, that I can write to anyway. So all of my cameras that support UHS-2 have V60 cards. I do have two V90 cards. I use the one V90 and the Sony because I just don't need them in my own system cameras. And Randy's here. How are you, Randy? Good to see you. And today with the OM1 and 4152.8 is extension 2 months. Oh yeah. So you can do some close-up photography today. But okay, guys. I am going to head out. I've been on for a couple hours. You guys are awesome. Thanks so much for joining me today. Had a great discussion. I really appreciate it. Uh, take everything I say with a grain of salt. You know, I'm just a guy with a camera, right? So I'm here just to share our passion together for this craft, and that's all. And maybe learn a few things along the way. So you guys have a great rest of your week. I'll be back on Tuesday for my shopping stream to QR gas. I do have a couple of neat things I want to show you on Tuesday. So join me for that. But until then, you guys have a great week.